hello there.
Hello, everybody.
And it looks like we are stalled.
Oh,
why are we stalled here?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. We are stalled.
All right. Well, that's better.
Oh, it looks like you're going to have to adjust the setting of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Now...
Yes.
Technical issues. Sorry about this, folks. The big opening is coming in just a few seconds. Stick with us. Really, it is. No, I'm just noticing that I'm not seeing any action on YouTube, but people are saying hello. So let me refresh this page.
I see it's up.
We are up. Okay, are you ready for the big opening? People, are you ready for the big opening? Friends, lovers, thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir. With a minor technical snafu, but absolutely well worth waiting for, at least having you in the chat is. I'm Robert.
I'm Amy.
And we're glad you're here. I hope you know who you are.
You're here.
And I've got the vacation hat on. I am styling. Well, of course, I got the black and red here. But the hat, because we've been out of town. We've been at OCON, the Objectivist Conference, with a lot of you out there. But for those of you not in the know or who weren't at the conference, we've got a few things to talk about. Let me just double check, make sure all of my channels are functioning. Looks like all of our technical support challenges are resolved. Good, good, because we need to talk about, well, today, Sunday, July 9th. This date today, this date in history, this date in your future. Sunday, July 9th, 2023, the 90th, the 190th day of this, your best year. Is this your best year yet or what? This has been a great year for us. You have 175 days left, a generous helping, a big bowl full of days to make the rest of it just as good as the first half. Christmas is 169 days, and that means you've only got 114 left until Halloween.
Yeah!
What's your costume this year? I don't know yet.
I mean, this is 2.5 month mark right now before October 1st. So that means 2.5 months before Halloween, which really means a month and a half.
You need to understand that for Amy, Halloween is the whole month of October, just in case you're questioning the math there. And on this date, let's go back in history real quick. On this date in 1762, Sophie takes over. Well, Sophie being the birth name of Catherine the Great, assumes power July 9th, 1762, the wife of Russia's new emperor. Peter III rallies the army regiments of St. Petersburg against her husband and is proclaimed Empress Catherine II, the sole ruler of Russia. I don't think ex-wife's chicken can compete with that.
What?
We've got a chicken restaurant, which I haven't been to yet, but I need to make that happen. It's a franchise, so you might have have it in your town too. Ex-wife's chicken.
Yeah, it's ex-wife's famous chicken.
The whole premise of the place is this is somebody's ex-wife starting a restaurant after the divorce, presumably based on the divorce settlement. The menu, the marketing is hilarious. But I think that Sophie, or Catherine, as she came to be known, she had to take on a Christian name when she converted. Catherine has ex-wife's chicken beat. You take over the country from your husband. It's a terrible story, but I love it anyway for the framing. One more. On this date, July 9th, 1846, the United States takes over San Francisco from Mexico. A story I did not know. An American naval captain occupied the small settlement of Yerba Buena, a site that will later be renamed San Francisco. Europeans did not encounter the spectacular San Franciscan Bay until 1769. Although several explorers had sailed by it in earlier centuries, when Spanish explorers finally found the bay that year, they immediately recognized its strategic value. Mm-hmm. And in 1776, seems like something else happened in 1776. In 1776, the Spanish built a military post on the tip of that San Franciscan peninsula and founded the mission of San Francisco de Asís. So that's the Spanish name for St. Francis of Assisi. The most northern outpost of the Spanish and later Mexican Empire in America. I wonder how many kids these days know that part of America used to be Mexican territory. The tiny settlement remained relatively insignificant for several decades. However, the potential of that magnificent harbor did not escape the attention of other nations. In 1835, the British captain William Richardson established a private settlement on the shore of Yerba Buena Cove, several miles to the east of the Mexican mission. That same year, the U.S. government offered to purchase the bay, but the Mexicans declined to sell. A little more than a decade later, this is like right before the Civil War. This gives you an idea how much time passed. A dispute between the U.S. and Mexico over western Texas led to war. Shortly after the Mexican War began, U.S. Captain John Montgomery sails his warship into the San Francisco Bay, anchoring just off the settlement of Yerba Buena. On this day, in 1846, Montgomery led a party of Marines and sailors ashore. They met no resistance and claimed the settlement for the United States, raising the American flag in the Central Plaza. The following year, the Americans renamed the village San Francisco. So how many of you in San Francisco knew that your town was named for St. Francis of Assisi? When the Mexicans formally ceded California to the United States in the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe, San Francisco was still a small town with perhaps 900 occupants. Same year, however, gold was discovered at nearby Sutter's Fort. San Francisco became the gateway for the massive gold rush. And by 1852, again, just before the Civil War, but almost 75 years after the Revolution, the town was home to more than 36,000. I wonder how many people know that history of San Francisco.
What actually happened, though...
What actually happened?
was that San Francisco was obviously named after Ayn Rand's amazing character, Francisco d'Anconia.
That's right. That's right. San Francisco, San Sebastian?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
I think you are right on the nose there. Okay.
Somehow.
That's all the history that I've got for today. And frankly, I think that's enough. But it was interesting to me to learn about San Francisco of Assisi. It's also National Sugar Cookie Day. Now, speaking of the Mexican War, this might be the Nasir War on the validity of sugar cookies, because I don't get sugar cookies.
Don't make them enough for Robert to appreciate them.
They're like if you were going to make cookies and you thought, oh wait, I don't have any ginger, I don't have any chocolate chips, I don't have anything, I don't have any cookie flavors. Let's make a cookie, and of course cookies have sugar already, so let's make a cookie and call it a sugar cookie?
I mean, you can call it a sugar cookie, but what I make is really a lemon zest cookie. So you've got a great amount of butter in there, nice amount of sugar and everything like that, but you take about maybe a teaspoon or tablespoon or however of lemon zest, fresh from a fresh lemon. No, not dried lemon zest. And then you put that into the recipe, and it makes it amazing.
Like a poor substitute for chocolate chips, or
no, it's so good. You would love it. I mean,
Jennifer
is coming.
Says sprinkles. I don't know, sprinkles. What do you think?
You could put sprinkles on it. I mean, that would
lemon
just
zest.
make it look a little bit more aesthetic. But this is coming from Robert, whose favorite ice cream is vanilla.
Hey, reasons. Yeah.
Oh, and thank you so very much, Jim, on Facebook. Thanks for the compliment to my beautiful hair today.
Yes, yeah. Incidentally, I'm wearing my vanilla hat too.
Oh, your vanilla hat.
Your hair looks great. My hair's a mess.
Yeah, thank you
my
very
hair's
much.
Always a mess, but you look good. You look marvelous.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, vanilla hat. Normally I have the black hat on, and I could switch, but I'm feeling in that vacation mode because we've been on vacation and I've been wearing this hat all week. We'll get to that, but yeah, sugar. I don't know, sugar cookies, butter cookies. I call them none of the above flavored cookies. And none of the above is my favorite political candidate, so that's not necessarily a criticism.
Well, happy Sugar Cookie Day, darling.
Yes.
Put some lemon zest in there, you're going to love it.
Yes, none of the above. I even wrote a poem about none of the above, my favorite political candidate. I know a gal named None of the Above. Nota, we call her for short. The front runners, shite is what they're full of. Nota is who I support. She's the one candidate everyone loves, a reliable last resort. So says me. And also, happy birthday to Tom Hanks. So tell us in your chat your favorite Tom Hanks movie. I was going to ask your favorite flavor of cookie, but we ended up with the no flavor cookies. Oh, excuse me, the charming lemon zest cookies.
Well, I got to say, Jenny B chimed in on Facebook. She says the only none of the above cookie is shortbread.
Oh, truth. and it's kind of a heartbreaker because...
I like shortbread.
If you've been watching Ted Lasso, shortbread cookies play a fundamental part of the plot.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm not a shortbread person either. It's just, it tastes...
I like shortbread. I mean, if it's buttery enough, absolutely.
They taste like disappointment. It's like when you were a kid and you discovered that tin of Hershey's cocoa and you thought, oh, this should taste like chocolate. And then you take a spoon of it and you're like, well, this tastes like disappointment.
Since I've edged back from eating a lot of sugar, that means shortbread cookies for me. And
that's
sugar
true.
Cookies are like the most delectable dessert ever.
That's a great point. If you haven't had a cookie in a year, then any cookie is a good cookie.
They're so good.
It's like pizza and riding a bicycle. Yes. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we were asking for folks' favorite cookies, but also, what's your favorite Tom Hanks film? Because there's a few that I have missed. I'm jumping ahead to vacation reminiscences here, but let me jump ahead just a bit to Miami, Florida, United States, Earth, on a collision course for the galaxy Andromeda. I'm sorry, Jim, but you're right. Life extension is a thing. It's very possible that if we manage to survive, those of us who are a little older, survive another 20 years, 30 years, they may extend our life another 20 years or 30 years. And if we get another 30 years, they might extend it 60 and then 120. You do the math.
No thanks.
Or don't do the math. But when the Milky Way intersects with the nearest collision course galaxy Andromeda, in a mere 4 billion years...
Time's ticking.
I totally get when the writer and author Jim Ashley in the chat said he's concerned about that. I get it. So meanwhile, we do have 4 billion years to catch up on Tom Hanks films. Share with us in the chat your favorite, because we went to Miami.
Yeah.
We went to a restaurant, and it's a chain, so you may have been there, called Bubba Gump.
Yes.
And there's all sorts of, it turns out, Forrest Gump references. Mm-hmm. And I shared with our waiter, who was very talkative, even more talkative than we are on Sundays at 6 o'clock.
He was an interesting fellow
yes.
of Jamaican descent, but also of mixed origins, and he's been everywhere. He's been in the armed forces. He's he has a lot to talk about, and he wants to join our table. So, I mean, he's standing there for literally like 10 minutes at least.
Yeah, and we're like, maybe you should go put the order in that you just took. Oh, yeah.
We would like some food.
He did have a charming Jamaican accent and really a Jamaican swagger.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And but he was also somehow we got on the issue of politics, and
we did get on the issue of politics, and he is about as opposite, if there is an opposite, of where we're at. So we had to be diplomatic.
Yeah. So I engaged him while the fellows, because I thought to myself, this isn't going to go anywhere until I put a stop to this. So I went ahead and I engaged him, very politely and nicely. And I actually wrote down, because we talked about environmentalism. We talked about, I forget what else, I don't know, some sort of
capitalism.
Malevolent perspectives
and,
on,
Yeah.
And so it was interesting. We got down kind of deep with the guy. So I wrote down that he should read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand and Fossil Future by Alex Epstein.
Now, you might wonder, why would Amy send him to the library to read books? And the answer is, he explained to us, oh yeah, I don't use a smartphone. That's how they know where you are and what you're doing. Gives you an idea.
Yeah. So anyway, but he was, he was nice enough, and it was very interesting.
Yes. Jim Ashley says, and Jim is a movie expert if you follow his writings on Facebook, he says, my favorite Tom Hanks movie is Apollo 13, but my favorite performance of his is in Captain Phillips. I've seen Apollo 13, which is an outstanding adventure right there, despite, well, I won't say despite because I don't want any spoilers, but I haven't seen Captain Phillips. I don't know that one, so we'll have to look it up.
I'm looking at a whole list on my screen of Tom Hanks movies.
Well,
and
yeah, he's got a heck of a catalog.
Lots of...
Outrageous. Just never ending.
It's funny because somebody mentioned him at the restaurant. We were talking with our friend, and
oh yeah, the end of that story is
not the waiter.
Well, let me just finish the part I started, which is I mentioned to the waiter because the menu at Bubba Gump's, it turns out they somehow managed to finagle a connection with the movie Forrest Gump, and I mentioned him. I've never seen that film,
right?
And he looked slack-faced for a moment, and you must right away. You have to.
I haven't seen it either, for the record.
Yeah.
But then I think it was asked, well, what have you seen? We're like, Bosom Buddies.
And that's when he realized how old we were. So there you go.
I loved Bosom Buddies. It was great.
Oh,
great show.
Ginny B mentions the film Big. Big is so charming.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if I've seen it since it came out or a few years after that. But super sweet, yes. I know for some reason the premise of like body switching or going back in time, but especially the switching ages, parent-child, Freaky Friday, 13 going on 30, it's a premise that's been used in a lot of movies. And it always seems like a really dumb premise to me, but almost every time those films end up drawing me in and I find them super charming. Mm-hmm. So I should see Big again.
Yeah.
And 13 going on 30 and Freaky Friday, both versions. So yes, thank you for that. So yes, happy 67th birthday to Tom Hanks. One more birthday, it's Jack White's birthday.
Oh, is it?
Yes, Jack White, born on this day in 1975. So he's not that much younger than me. I need to catch up with his level of success. But of course, the guitar player, lead singer of the White Stripes, as well as Raconteurs, and a solo artist as well.
A shout out to Meg White.
Shout out to Meg White.
Despite all the haters.
Damn right.
She did it.
She was the best drummer in the White Stripes. Well, she was the second best drummer in the White Stripes. No, I'm kidding. That's an old Beatles joke.
It's terrible.
Because John Lennon was asked, was Ringo the greatest drummer in the world? And John Lennon's answer was, Ringo wasn't even the greatest drummer in the Beatles. So I couldn't resist. But Meg White, the White Stripes wouldn't have been the White Stripes if they had had a different drummer.
It
just wouldn't.
Do people expect her to be Neil Peart?
No,
Is that
you don't even want her to be Neil Peart.
Do people want blood? I mean, anyway. But she did it. She went up there. She did it. She got it done. She made it happen. She had the presence, the courage, the charisma.
Yes.
To do it.
And she gave that music exactly what it needed.
Yes,
a Neil Peart level drummer would have ruined that music.
Yes.
And maybe what they did would have been great, but it would have been something else entirely.
Yeah.
So yes.
So shout out to Meg White.
So that's it. Sugar cookies, happy birthdays. I'm done with that segment, but now we go into shameless self-promotion. And I don't have any self-promotion from last week. But it's okay because I didn't do this last week, so I have to go back to the week before. What does that even mean? Well, we were out of town. We were on vacation. So the last show that I did on the ARC UK, the Ayn Rand Center UK channel, was The Boy on the Bicycle, The Courage to Face a Lifetime. If you didn't hear it, you've got to hear it. If you haven't read Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead yet, minor spoilers, but minor. The scene stands on its own. It doesn't ruin anything. Yeah. Yeah. So I read the opening of part 4 of that book on the show, and chapter 11, the opening sequence from Anthem, and a few other things.
Yeah. My feeling about giving away spoilers of Ayn Rand fiction books is that they're so multi-layered. There's so much in those books. There's so many different subplots and themes and characters that... if you know something, if you find out something in advance, it's not going to spoil the book. Truly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are books and movies and other works of art that bear repeated viewings, and some that don't. I still haven't gotten myself to watch Whiplash again, even though I loved it the first time.
We loved that movie the first time, but then it was so exhausting, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got a few others like that. I've got some that are still DVD days, still sitting in blister packs in their DVD cases. Whereas Ayn Rand works absolutely do bear repeated viewings and readings. So yes, I also did a show with James Valliant celebrating the nation of the Enlightenment. If you've still got a little bit of that Independence Day feeling in your heart, Lord knows I do, give that a watch. I thought we did a good show. And finally, last week, 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, live from OCON 1, and that was last Sunday, and that is why today we're talking part 2.
Yes, part 2 of OCON.
Amy,
OCON,
how did you
Miami.
like OCON, and especially the latter 2/3 that we hadn't gotten to on last Sunday? Man.
It was a series of mini adventures that I still need to integrate the themes of. That's so it's whereas, say, for instance, when we went to Japan, I should say even those were a series of mini adventures, but that was a little bit more congruous in its theme and the subject matter and what we are learning and experiencing and delving into, and just so very much enjoying immersing ourselves in that. That's what I'm trying to get at. In OCON, it was a lot of different subject matters, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of energy levels going up and going down. And actually, I think that we did a great job getting to bed at a reasonable time, unlike some OCONs where we had like 4 hours of sleep and it was just miserable.
Yeah, we didn't stay up all night.
No. So that was great. So good for us. I highly recommend that. I consider sleep now to be my new dessert.
Interesting.
Yes, sleep is the new dessert.
Sleep is a luxury.
Yeah. So it was great. And we had we did so many things, from what I talked about in our previous Sunday, flamenco and all of this, to at the very last night at the closing banquet, I was able to do a little show and tell and performance to a few people, actually, with my castanets and my fans and my shawl. And to kind of, so do a little performance in the lobby, which was great fun. And I really loved it. And on top of that, I learned how to, we can get up on the dance floor and dance to, 80s music or whatever music, or salsa music or whatever it is. But I was able to get up there with my castanets and use my castanets while dancing to contemporary music. And that was fantastic fun. I need to do more of that.
That was very cool. I wouldn't have guessed that would even go as well as it did, but it went. Yeah. I mean, what fun to have castanets out on the dance floor.
It was great.
Super cool. I'm just looking at the chat here, and there were a couple things I almost missed. In regard to the film themes I was talking about, Ginny B says it's about living life as an adult with the sense of life of a child. Mm-hmm. Boy, that element of the kinds of films we were talking about. Thank you for pointing that out. I certainly live with the sense of life of a child. At least I try to. And Chandler says, I highly recommend morning coffee with the Nasirs. Thank you for that.
That was so fantastic.
It was a highlight it was the reason to go. Beyond the lectures, great lectures, and we talked about a couple of those. In fact, the ones we talked about last Sunday are probably still my favorites from the whole week. Yeah. But also, the breakfast, lunch, dinner, most of those were with friends.
With friends.
And some people we'd never met, but only knew through this show or through the Thursday shows.
It was great seeing you, Chandler. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. It was so much fun.
Everybody that we had the opportunity to spend any time with outside of the lectures, please know that we deeply, deeply appreciate it, and we are hanging on to those memories, which is one of the reasons why we took a lot of selfies. Maybe next week we'll do a slideshow, since I didn't prepare one this week. If you want to see pictures, though, I've got a few friends who are not on Facebook. Even if you're not on Facebook, you can go to Facebook, type facebook.com/Robert Nasir, because all of my posts are public. Actually, while I'm on vacation, they're usually set as friends only for security reasons, but they are all flipped. So now you can see all of that stuff. You can see all of the pictures of all the exciting things that happened while we were there. Amy has a lot up as well, facebook.com/Amy Nasir.
Yeah. So I haven't gone through I haven't gone through my photos yet. So I had to work on Friday. We came home Thursday afternoon, work on Friday.
That's true, right back to the grind.
Then we had a graduation party to attend, and also to bring, Robert brought a whole bunch of things to that party for karaoke. And so it was just a work day on Friday and Saturday. And today was really the day of the day of more rest. So it's been great.
Yes. Good.
Oh, yeah. And Jim Ashley says, I want to check out Aligia Rosa's
Hedgehog Waltz.
Hedgehog Waltz.
Look on YouTube for the Hedgehog Waltz.
Oh, my gosh.
And eventually they'll release the talent show tapes, and she may post that one as well. That's what they did last time anyways. For each of us who participated in the talent show, they sent us the video from that. I shared the one that I did before. This one probably wasn't quite as good, but I may share that as well.
Well, yeah, now we're jumping ahead here. I don't know if we should be more chronological, right?
Okay, well, if you want to go back to last Sunday, since that's when we did the show, let's see, that would be Sunday the 3rd? Yes. So we talked about the Ferris wheel.
Mm-hmm. We talked about going to see I think we had already seen the flamenco performance at the Spanish restaurant, Cava restaurant.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Sunday was actually the Cava? Yeah, Sunday was the 2nd.
Yes.
Sorry about that, folks. I'm just going through my notes here, and
and then the next
the talent show is the next day.
The next day we had another wonderful, glorious lunch, this time with Felix and Kate. Gosh, I mean, we had lunch with Gary, with David and Stephanie. That was great. Steve and Mary Aline, and then Felix and Kate, and then later Rozzy and Ella, and then later with our dear friend Tully. And oh my gosh.
Well,
and David.
Well, and
David.
Yes, but
I'm just going to mention first names, but
well, you're not thinking of all the meals though, because you're thinking, well, Ginny and Wes, that was Super Blue.
Yeah. Yes,
but after Super Blue, we went out for dinner too.
That was later.
I don't need to make a list of all the dinners and breakfast and lunch and all the people that we had. The whole point is,
let's not forget Nessa. I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting how to say his name again. Anyway, a nice gentleman, and with the rest of us, with Ginny B and Wes, and oh my gosh, I look back and I'm like, so much fun packed into a week. It was intensely wonderful.
Yes,
we got to meet Yeonmi
Park.
Yeonmi Park.
So the closing reception of OCON is always a big dinner and then dancing. And there's usually a video recap. And the video recap they did this time around, they showed scenes from the whole conference, people, casual stuff, but also bits from the talks. And they usually play some generic kind of pop music in the background. Mm-hmm. Well, this time, the winner of the talent show, Legera Rose, her piano composition, the Hedgehog Waltz, was so charming. They used that as the background for the week-long recap.
Yes.
And then the climax of that night was an interview, while we were having our dinner, with the North Korean defector, survivor, Yeonmi Park.
Yes.
And it was a compelling interview. Inspiring at times, very tragic, and sometimes it seemed like it wasn't even appropriate for dinner. But in the end, it was so inspiring. Oh. And of course, she got the big standing ovation, which she well deserved.
Well, she had like several standing ovations, yes. I do believe.
And she was there to talk to us. It wasn't a quick in and out like she was paid to show up. She actually stayed for photographs and book signings, and during all of that, she was in no rush. It was very charming.
She was the sweetest, most delectable little bag of sugar ever.
Yes.
I just wanted to put her in my pocket, and I will stand by that forever. She was, what I mean to say was that her sense of life was so joyously charming, and she's 29 years old. I believe that she's a mother now, and
she has one child.
Yep, and she is doing great. I went up to her and I told her, I said, I hope that you keep finding joy in your life. Keep finding joy in your life. And I think something else too, yes. But I think that kind of affected her, and I held her hand. She reached out with both of her hands to grab mine, and it was just the sweetest thing ever. And wow, I mean, talk about having an extraordinarily rough life. I won't even get into the details. Please go out there and support her, buy her book, read her books. She has 2 books out there. She's so benevolent, so charming. She's just like a little kitten, and somebody to definitely keep your eye on, and especially to remember when you need a little cheering up. She's great.
Yes. Now that brings us to the point that I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight. First of all, before I go there, the videos, the sessions were all recorded. Just about everything was captured by the professional production company that David Azalai runs, Hilali's husband.
Yes.
She's such a sweetheart.
She is.
Anyway, everything was captured, everything was recorded, and as usual, be released over the course of time. The talk that Talzafani gave, essentially kind of setting the tone for it, even though it was a good ways into that first day, has already been released. If you look for a video called Live from OCON 2023, Spreading Objectivism, A Vision for ARI's Future, you can see Talzafani's vision for ARI's future, but also some real benchmarks of where they've been, what successes they've already had. As we go along and they release these talks, another good reason to follow Amy, follow me on social media is we will be announcing those, because once they become publicly available, we're going to want to see them again, although we have digital access to them.
Yes.
But you're going to want to see them. They were awfully good. I especially am looking forward to when that interview with Yeonmi Park is released, so you get a chance to watch her conversation at our closing event. And, you know, Amy, you said that she's a bundle of joy, a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And she is. She is absolutely the most effervescent, charming person. It's almost hard to imagine what she's been through, although when she talks about it, you can see the emotion, you can see the memories. And, of course, you can read her 2 books to get the whole story. But it had me thinking, one of the standout features of a conference like this is how many of the people there really are kindred spirits. A lot of positivity, a value orientation.
Yes.
With, 90%, 95% of the people there. And I think, well, there's always a few people who don't seem to have quite gotten it, or just aren't looking for the same things.
Everyone's on their own journey, and everyone has their own set of hierarchical values.
Well, that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is when I talk to the kind of people who put all of their focus onto, let me be generous and call it the fight, and very little focus on living their own lives, achieving success, and building that emotional leitmotif of happiness, that durable state, as Jean Maroney calls it.
Yeah, happiness is a climate.
Yeah,
I believe she said that, either her or Tara. Yeah.
And I thought, well, those people might have been through a lot.
Yeah.
I know people who, some of us had really, really difficult childhoods. Some of us had difficult times in school. Some of us have been through crisis and conflict. And so I can see why some of the people there, their focus is a little less on joy and a little more on the fight. But then I look at somebody like Yeonmi Park, who has been through hell and back more than once if you read this book, and especially the one before it.
Yeah.
And yet she has real joie de vivre, a lust for life, a passion about her, and joy and benevolence. When you engage with her, she is giving you everything she's got.
Yes. She is in the moment with you. She's present with you. It was so great.
Yes.
It was, it's one of those heart-melting situations, and just such spiritual fuel you can get out of that.
Yes. And it made me think, well, some people just don't want to be happy. And that sounds silly, and when I put it that way, it is silly. But I've referred you to my Substack, and the link is in the show notes on YouTube and on Facebook already. And I did an essay, which I also read on the ARC UK, about achieving happiness and how that involves certain decisions. There are certain prerequisites to happiness. And I just want to read one of them, number 2, from my list of the prerequisites of happiness. Prerequisite number 2, you, me, all of us, you have got to want happiness. Now, if that sounds silly or obvious or obtuse, let me add the rest of the story. You have got to want happiness more than you want to hang on to your grievances or your sense of injustice, your disappointment in people, your belief that happiness would be a betrayal of justice, your sense that being happy would be a capitulation, a failure to take evil seriously. If you bristle at the sight of happy people, if you assume that such people, they aren't taking the world's evils, the politicians, the woke warriors, the demagogues, the destroyers, they aren't taking it seriously. If you think that happiness means not taking evil seriously, you are going to have to check, you're going to have to question, and you're going to have to reject that premise. It makes no sense. It is irrational and unjust to let evil set the stage, to let evil win, to let evil matter, to let evil rob you, the good person that you are, of a joyous life. You have got to want happiness more than you want to hang on to the pain that you have so desperately, so heroically steeled yourself against. You have got to want happiness more than you want to hang on to the pain you've steeled yourself against. That toughness, that thick skin that you had to develop, it is a source of pride and strength and security, and you're going to have to let it go. Let the pain go and transform that soldier, the soldier you, the tough guy, the protector, into a partner and an ally in your commitment from now on to pleasure, to passion, and joy. Okay, I'll leave it there. The longer essay is available on my Substack. I read that out loud, not just for you, but for me to remind myself, because I need that lesson as much as anybody does. And when I see somebody like Yeonmi Park, who has been through, again, hell and back, and she is able to let go of the pain and keep moving forward and embrace what is now a fantastic life for her, and share that with all of us, I think, okay, we can do that.
Yeah, couldn't say that better myself. I wish I had read that before you just said it, so I could have processed it a little bit more. But yeah, it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yes.
It's even okay to now I'm starting to think about the famous scene with Howard Rourke and Ellsworth Toohey, the "I Don't Think of You" scene, kind of in a different way, of it being Howard Rourke didn't look at him, and after Ellsworth says, well, I've done this and this to you. Don't you hate me? Don't you want to say anything? And, Howard Rourke could have just said, get away from me, you jerk, or whatever. But he opened himself up in a way. And I think, he didn't feel compelled to fight. He didn't feel compelled to start calling him every name in the book, which he certainly had every right to do. He opened himself up, and he said, honestly, but I don't think of you.
I love that scene. And the biggest reason I love it is because Rourke means it.
Yeah.
It's not a dig, it's not an insult, and it's easy to focus on that. The insulting aspect. It's the biggest dig, the biggest insult you could give to Toohey, and that's cool. But that's not what Rourke means. Rourke literally does not think of Ellsworth Toohey. But I don't think of you. Mm-hmm. And that is so much better a meaning, not just because it's a better dig, but because it's a better view of life.
And it's honest.
Yeah.
It's honest. I think about that for a second. It's not just, what's a good digging retort, so stinging. Yeah. No. Howard Rourke's just being who he is, and he's being honest with himself, and he's being honest with Ellsworth Toohey.
Yes. Now he does realize later in the book that he does have to think about evil to the extent that it's going to have an impact on him.
Right.
He does eventually fight back, but even then it's the smallest part of what he does and who he is. And the story necessarily ends the way it began, with the words Howard Rourke, and with him, well, at first he's laughing and then he's triumphing.
Yeah.
And the whole focus is on values. It's all about the positive. So I wanted to share that because, again, the conference was amazing. It was full of values, very few negatives. The few that I saw really made me think. And it made me think about more than happiness. It made me think about success more broadly. My Post-it note for the week. I often have a Post-it note for the week. You see me looking around for it. I seem to have lost it. So I have scribbled it out real quick on a spare note I've got here. This might not be easy to read, but I'll read it out loud. You should write this on a Post-it note if you want to get the same value from it that I will this week by putting it up around the studio or somewhere else where I will see it all week. My Post-it note for the week, in my hastily scrawled out handwriting here, says, if you want to be happy, you've got to want to be happy. Is that tautological enough? If you want to be happy, you've got to want... And it turns out a lot of people want to be happy, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to make the change. They don't want to be open to the possibility of being hurt or disappointed. They don't want to let that chip on their shoulder off. They don't want to stop carrying that boulder of a chip on their shoulder, their past grievances, all those past injustices, all of the anger about what happened to them. But I'll tell you what, if you want to be happy, you have got to want to be happy. Mm-hmm. Well, as I was writing this down earlier...
You've got to want to work to be happy.
Well, I was writing this down earlier on a Post-it note, which again is somewhere here in the studio, and I will find it after we finish the show. I realized as I was writing this that tautology, which has the hidden wisdom in it, applies to other things too. If you want to be successful, you've actually got to want to be successful. And not just you've got to be willing to take the actions it takes to be successful. You've also got to be willing to risk leaving your comfort zone. You've also got to be willing to let go of the things that are keeping you from being successful, usually comfort things, habits and routines that are safe and effective for what you're doing right now. You know, the old expression, if you want what you've never had, you're going to have to do what you've never done. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to be successful, you've got to want to be successful. But for now, I'm going to stick with, if you want to be happy, you've got to want to be happy. It sounds obvious, and I'm sure most of you are already doing much of that, just like I'm already doing much of that, but I've also got a ways to go. I could do better.
Oh, I mean, there's never going to be an end to finding room for improvement for myself. Ever. which is great. That means I can integrate more. I can learn new things.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Jim Ashley says, hold it up there again. He sometimes takes a screenshot of these. This is so sloppy. You should not be using a screenshot of this. Look at that. It's just, I didn't even have like a hard surface. It was just on my leg. That is the worst scrawled version. I should not be holding that up there again. But thanks for asking. I do appreciate that. Miranda says, fight for your happiness, and you will be. Well, that's true, too.
Should we go back to OCON?
So go back to OCON.
Yeah.
Do we have more to say about OCON before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to say my absolute favorite, they were more personal for me, my absolute favorite talks.
Yes.
Were Dr. Amy Shadalja talking about public health.
Yes.
As opposed to individual health. And it's very informative. It's always fun to listen to him. He's a mile a minute kind of speaker, but he's very articulate, so you can understand what he's saying. And you can just see, I mean, his CPU is like ridiculously fast. Yes. And it's just a joy to watch. I'll just say that. And
for some folks who might be suspicious of the topic, he did contrast public health in public spaces, with community health. Mm-hmm. The first being a valid concept, because there are aspects of, for example, if I have a contagious disease and I'm out there in the public, versus collectivized health.
Yes, and one size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah, and force where it doesn't belong, where there is no imminent danger or objective threat.
Yes. Yes. So, but yeah.
Good talk.
Great talk. When that comes out, you'll see it. It's great.
Yes. Again, when these favorites of ours come out, you will see us sharing them left and right and in the middle and the top and the bottom.
And again, the thing that I absolutely love was that he got a standing ovation, and there were so many people in the Q&A, whereas in years past, he was looked at as being kind of, well, I'll just say this. The whole COVID situation with vaccines and the political stuff and epidemiology and so much complexity to this subject. And he handled it in the most graceful way that I've ever seen. A lot of people didn't have the background, or perhaps for whatever reason they weren't as graceful and or forgiving, perhaps, or not forgiving, but they weren't open to see any positives coming from him. I'll say that. But this time, everybody in the audience, everyone was on the same page, and everybody understood that what he did and what he continues to do is heroic and difficult, and 16, 20-hour work days, interviewing in the middle of the night in Singapore, just all sorts of things. And he kept it together, and he was just brilliant. So that was a triumph. It was a triumph.
Yes.
Another category in the area of triumph is Augustina. Golly, why am I forgetting her last name now? I will find this out. Okay.
Augustina Cid.
Okay. Anyway, she did an excellent presentation on immigration and what it means to get in line and go through legal immigration. Truly eye-opening, astounding, horrific, extremely informative for people who think, oh, some people, they can just get in line. They don't quite understand. They don't understand at all what that actually means and what it looks like in reality. The kind of nightmarish hoops that you have to go through over and over again, hundreds of times, never ending for years on end, complexities that you can't even imagine, injustices that you can't even imagine. She also made her story very personal, which was great, which was very affecting and memorable. And I think she got 2 standing ovations. I do believe she was fantastic.
Yeah, Jennifer says takes forever, and you're absolutely right about that. But some of the hoops are just massive sacrifices that they're asking for.
Yes.
And Augusta makes that very personal in her talk. So when that one is released, it's a perfect balance of very personal, because she has personal experience with that, and very objective in a discussion of the larger picture. Very, very well. And I'll tell you what, I went into that one not expecting to get much out of it. Same thing with Amish's talk, because I was focused on the positive and looking for those motivational and those informational and things to improve your life. And I thought, well, immigration is something we need to know about. Public health policy is something we need to know about, but that's not really what I'm here for. And both of those talks turned out to be, in my top 5 list. Just very well done. And even when they dealt with negative aspects or difficulties, challenges, still very inspiring in how well those topics were clarified and handled. So I agree with you, Amy. Both of those were very good talks.
And it was, I followed both of them pretty closely. And so just to see how they've both grown and their successes through time was very, very deeply satisfying and pleasing. Yes.
It's Ginny B says favorite lecture this year. I'll tell you what, you wouldn't have known from it either. That was her first time being on the lecture stage at OCON. She's been working with ARI for years, but this is her first year actually giving a talk.
Yes.
And she was just total pro, total professional. Yeah.
Well, I got to give a shout out to Don Watkins, who has kind of mentored her in terms of her speaking style and her presentation skills. So thanks for that. Thanks for helping Augustina.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
goodness, I mean, there's so much more to talk about. I just don't even. Oh gosh, we got to hang out with Shoshana Milgram.
There are stories there too.
She's so wonderful. She's so wonderful. So she did a 3-lecture mini course throughout the day, throughout the last day, that Wednesday, and she was able to find all sorts of new biographical material filling in the gaps of Ayn Rand's life, and it was outstanding. It was just outstanding. It was. I'm so thrilled to hear that there is even more information out there about Ayn Rand's life. When she finally finishes the biography that she's been working on for 10 years, it's going to be good. If these talks are any indication, it's going to be just magnificent. Oh, yeah.
Of course, I loved that she called her lecture series, the 3 parts that she did at OCON, Ayn Rand, a philosopher who lived on Earth.
Yes.
Because Ayn Rand famously called objectivism informally a philosophy for living on Earth.
Yes.
Which is where I was inspired to call my Thursday show Life on Earth. And that's exactly what it was. So many details of not just her philosophic journey, but what her life looked like. That she was a person who lived on Earth. And the more details you get, the easier it is to identify with. Amy, you always say if you met Ayn Rand, you'd want to give her a big hug.
Oh, absolutely. If she would, come
if she would let you.
If she came to trust me eventually, she would, and I would give a big hug.
and the reason I mention that is because, we've never really had a detached, cold perspective on Ayn Rand.
No.
Enormous respect, but at the same time, she lived a rich and passionate life.
Yes.
And for those of you who are fans of hers, I know this podcast goes out to the general public, but I'm sure more than half of the folks listening, you're already fans of Ayn Rand or even objectivists. That's what I hope that you feel too. Both dispassionate respect for the clarity and accuracy of these ideas, but also a passion for them and a desire to apply this to your life, to live a little more of what her art shows is possible.
So one thing I didn't mention, I don't think, on last Sunday's program was that let me just share something a little vulnerable and personal for me. Like, you don't get that anyway. So I came into this OCON feeling really down about everything because it was colored by the fact that my OCON talent show submission was not accepted.
Oh.
So I had submitted a video for consideration to be in the talent show. And I was doing flamenco music with some canned music. Robert would not be playing.
I probably should have been playing, because when you danced last time, not only did you get your audition was accepted, but you came in. You tied for third place.
Yes,
you came in the top
third,
4.
Yes.
And and it's not like my guitar playing was that great. It was your dancing.
Well, it was both of us together. So for whatever reason, my entry was not accepted, so I was very down. I was given a form letter, which was just fine. I mean, they have to do what they have to do. I understand that. So, and I'm a professional. I didn't,
You are a professional.
Tackle people and demand a reason. I did ask around, but it didn't come out of anywhere. But it was okay. I was fine. So I was down. I went in just sad, but looking for values to get me out of those funks, and I did it. So what I did 4 things actually. I did 4 flamenco things, related things that the first the private lesson that I had from Elisa Rosa, who's a master flamenco artist down there in Miami. And then a couple days later, I took a 2-hour-long session with her. It was a group session with 2 other ladies. Absolutely amazing. And I learned a new dance. And I was so happy and so thrilled. It was... You can watch last Sundays for more about that. Then we went to see the performance at Cava Restaurant with the 2 flamenco, the male and the female flamenco dancers, and the gentleman who was singing and the gentleman who was playing guitar, all very good. And then finally in the dinner, I brought my my flamenco stuff, the castanets and the fan, all that stuff, and I demonstrated for some people at that dinner in the lobby, things like that. So I was able to dance, use my castanets out on the dance floor, dancing to contemporary music. It was flavored with flamenco. I decided that I would do that to, give myself a little self-soothing and maybe even some new experiences and adventures, which actually did happen. So I'm very proud of myself. I'm happy I did that. I set that up. I arranged that for myself. Instead of feeling dreary, I took action. So anyway, that's a little story. And yes. My flamenco story of OCON 2023.
You turned it into a theme of the whole week.
Yes, I did.
And incidentally, in the chat, Sam Heyer says, I went to a flamenco show in Barcelona because of you, Amy. And Jim Ashley says, I can identify with that down feeling, Amy, when something you do and you do well is rejected. Yeah. Yes. So, folks, OCON was great. And the bit of news...
Yeah. I was just going to say real quick, I think you can still purchase the online or the virtual pass kind of thing, I think. I don't know if you can or not, but you might be able to contact ARI and purchase the online versions of all of these talks. So, yes, FYI.
Because some of them will take quite a long time to be released, and it won't necessarily be the case that all of them will end up on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, if you want to watch them right away, and if you've got the cash for that, by all means, make that happen. Or better yet, just wait and send your cash to paypal.com/Robert Nasir. Or both. But, real quick, the final bit of the story is, as they always do, they announced at the end of this OCON, when is the next OCON, and where is the next OCON. And it turns out that the where is in Anaheim, California, and the when is a little bit earlier. They usually do it over the Independence Day holiday, but this time it's going to be the 3rd week of June. Mm-hmm. And because of a schedule conflict, it means we probably won't be attending. But we're pretty much committed to at least being at the closing reception.
Yes.
So those of you who are going to OCON 2024, and if you're wondering, are we going to be there? just for the very end, and then for a while after that.
You'll be able to see us.
We'll let you know as that develops. But Anaheim's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. They usually do them East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast. This time they went from Washington, D.C. to Miami, Florida, so they were overdue to get back out on the left side of the country. So there you go.
You know, I should say this. One thing is, so when I was 4 years old, we went to Disneyland in Anaheim, California. And thankfully, I was able to, my grandmother at the time bought me a Minnie Mouse dress. And it was a wonderful dress. It had like a built-in petticoat, and it had like a little bell in it that made sound when you twirled. And it was so cute, and sweet little puffy sleeves, and it was adorable. I just hope that maybe I can find an adult version of that when we go.
Yes. Chandler says, maybe extend your trip to hop down to San Diego for a day. That's actually the plan.
That's the plan, Chandler.
There are people in California we need to see.
Yes.
Some of whom we've had the pleasure of meeting in person a couple times, but some of whom we have not met in person. And that is why, even though we can't be there for the whole week because of a schedule conflict of something that's already in place for that time next year,
yes,
we will be, if all goes well, at the closing event and then in California for a while after that. And San Diego is actually one of the target locations.
Yes.
Because somebody who's attending OCON in Anaheim actually lives in San Diego. And we want to spend some time with that person. So
yeah.
It's a year away. We'll let you know more details as it goes. But there's your little bit of preview there. Folks, we ran long. I meant to make this quick. Last Sunday, half-hour show. We got closer to 5 minutes. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. You know how the end of the show goes. We appreciate you being here. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, please leave them in the chat or in the 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir Facebook group, where you can also make any comments that you like. If you'd like to support the show, we need your support. Like this show on YouTube. Share this show on whatever social medias you use. And if you've got cash in your pocket, or if you just want to skip your next Starbucks, go to robertnasir.com. You will find links to our Patreon, where you can send a small or large monthly contribution, and PayPal for one-time contributions, both greatly appreciated. You live in our hearts like that when you do those things. Thank you to those of you who are already patrons of the show. Really, you give us the motivation to keep the lights on, the cameras rolling, the words coming. You're the best. And with that said, all that remains is for us to wish you every success that you so richly deserve. People who don't deserve success don't listen to a show like this, and they certainly don't stick around until the very end. Every success that you so richly deserve, we wish you every happiness, all of the flourishing. You know, there was a debate about the validity of the word flourishing. I don't care. I want you both to flourish in the sense of success and prosperity, and to live with flourish. I want you to have that joie de vivre, that flair, that white plume of freedom that makes you gesture just a little more passionately than most people do.
Yes, get some flamenco steps in there.
Yes. And as always, Amy wishes, we wish you